can't look you in the face. I don't wanna have to lie. I wanted this love to survive. Now when I look in your I feel paralyzed.
Hello and welcome back to Space Force Tournament Semifinals. I will be your play-by-play caster, Belly OW. With me is the always wonderful and very informative Moxie. Hi, Moxie.
Hey guys, and I can't be as informative as I normally are, Belle, because we don't really have much information on these two teams.
Indeed, unfortunately we do not, but we will do whatever we can to get some information out. We do have some information on AVX as we have seen them yesterday.
We did. Well, I can say keep your eye out on Genji. This guy is very good at the DPS he plays. We saw some really clutch blades coming out of him.
Indeed we did. And we can, at the very least, on stream look at AVX real quick, where we will see Kiwi, Lucas Merlin, Ike, Muppet, Phosphor, and Darky Phoenix. Though I'm assuming I'm not seeing either Ike or Muppet. Possibly different accounts, or they've got two different DPS for this series, or the previous series, but this is the team that they are running at the moment. Yeah, playing very well so far, having only lost versus Eclipse, who have a golden stage so far. AVX still putting up a pretty good fight versus Eclipse so far.
Yeah, they gave them a real run for their money. In a couple of control maps, it was actually 99 to 99.
Indeed it was, and I will actually go check for the Frozen Melons here. Frozen Melons actually also up 3-0. Same as Eclipse, so
they're the favorites coming in.
They're currently indeed the favorites coming in, AVX being the only one who has lost the game so far, so Frozen Melons indeed looking quite strong. Whoever wins this, indeed, as it is the semifinals, goes on to the finals. Whoever loses this gets the chance to fight for the third spot, so the bronze position. The game should be good.
Yeah, well, AVX, I think, will be looking to close this one out and then take their revenge on Space Force Eclipse.
And indeed, probably gonna try to get that, though. It's gonna be, as we said before, an uphill battle. Seeing as indeed the Frozen Melons do have a bit of an edge here.
Just a little bit. I mean, we don't know do we know the scores of the games that they were doing? Was it a clean 3-0 for each of them?
It was a clean 3-0 for all of those maps, you mean?
Yes.
That I am not sure of. That it doesn't actually say on the bracket, so I cannot get this information, I'm afraid.
Well, then we don't know the full tale, so...
Indeed, just having gotten in. Unfortunately, we wish to give some more information, but that is a bit more difficult at the moment. But we will do whatever we can to at least keep it interesting for everyone involved. The map pool, however, Max, can you say something about the map pool? I think you've got it with you.
It's looking at the moment like we're probably going to see Lijiang first. Teams actually seeming to like Lijiang in this tournament. But Lijiang is normally the control map that we see. It's either that or Ilios, but
Ilios not very much favored. I mean, I would say Lijiang and Nepal generally being the favorite control maps. Ilios actually being the black sheep of the group, according to many. So
really, I would have had money that on that being Oasis.
I actually hear people don't really like Oasis, but they just like Ilios.
I wonder if that's because you just really go for the environmentals on most of the Ilios maps, say Lucio, Roadhog,
It's indeed like every round just kind of has its set composition. There's not really that many options, especially on Well. while on the other maps you do generally have a bit more like leniency and stuff that you can go. While there is like a standard go-to meta a bit, there are still other compositions that thrive in these maps, especially like a map like Night Market, for example, where a lot of different stuff can happen.
Yeah, you can run Dive, you can run Rhinzari, you can run the Hammond.
Indeed, you can. You can run a whole lot of things, but it will be waiting out what we will see on this map.
It will be indeed. Well, we saw it was WBTC on the Sombra yesterday, I believe.
And indeed it was.
So, I mean, we haven't seen Frozen Melons, so we don't know if they have a specific Sombra player. But we're seeing, especially with the meta the way it is at the moment, teams that can have that Sombra, that really good Sombra, with the EMPs and the priority target hacks, it really does give them an edge in team fights, especially when it comes to ultimate economy, Bell.
Indeed, and the EMP just being such a strong ultimate to get fight wins in quite easily. So
yeah, well, if the enemy team have maybe like 5 ultimates up and you've only got the EMP, you can actually win that fight off the back of the EMP.
Let's see. So far, actually, I just got the information on Frozen Melons, what they have gotten. So far, Frozen Melons with a 3-2, a 3-0, and a 3-1. So it can go either way.
Not always clean.
It is indeed not always clean. Let's see. Can I actually find this information for AVX? Let's go to group stages. Let's go to
we know
matches.
that they lost 3-0 against Space Force Eclipse yesterday.
Well, they did lose, however, they won 3-0 versus the 9X and a Navy, so it can actually still go both ways.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's sometimes pretty clear after the first map which team has an edge over each other.
Usually,
sometimes
indeed,
it does take the second map for either one or both of the teams to sort of have properly warmed up and really start hitting the shots that count.
It is indeed kind of a thing indeed. First map, usually a warm-up map, even though you've warmed up before, possibly through scrims or through quick play or through competitive, it's still different than playing team versus team, so in a tournament environment. So first map, usually indeed a bit of a warm-up, a bit of getting the rust off, but it should still be some good games here.
It should be, hopefully. We're still just waiting. There's a couple of teams asking a couple of behind the curtain questions, but production will be handling all that, I'm sure. And I mean, if it is going to be Lijiang, we can expect to see the Pharah, possibly the Widow, probably the Sombra.
Indeed.
What would you do, Belle, if you were attacking? Let's go with Night Market. What would your ideal setup be?
In the current meta, it would still probably be Orisa Hog, annoyingly enough, though I'm personally quite favoring Ryan Zarya if we're looking at PTR. Ryan Zarya, just because the walk to point is actually relatively short. As soon as you can get in through that first door, which is already a thing that you can do pretty easily, get a speed boost in there possibly. Even without it, you've got a close corner that you can hide behind and then not a lot of distance to cover to get through that first door to start going into the courtyard of the point. And there, you're in quite close range with Ryan Zarya to do a lot of damage. So Ryan Zarya, not bad. Though if you want to play it a bit more defensively, Orisa Hog would be a good option. Though if you're gonna dive, I would actually say a Hammond Diva.
Yeah, no love for the monkey.
On this point, Monkey doesn't really have that much opportunity to do a lot because of the nature of his jump. Like, you're jumping in and you're jumping out and stuff like that. As Diva, you can boost to specific places by just literally going there. As Monkey, you have to keep in mind that you have to like be able to jump through somewhere or into somewhere or possibly go to high ground and stuff. Night Market, not really an option to really jump away that easily unless you go through the door, which isn't really that favorable to jump far, or you have to aim for those high windows or for the side windows with the risk of falling off the map. So
Yeah, it's never pretty when a Winston manages to fall off the map, especially with the jump back being on that cooldown. And if you're going to be attacking a control point like Night Market, the teams are always looking for the environmentals. It's so close to that edge of the map. If you have a Lucio or an Aristo who's got an itchy little environmental trigger finger, then you can find yourself off the edge very quickly.
indeed, and that is indeed why it would be like, say, a Hammond Diva, because they both have boobs, and Hammond doesn't need necessarily the high ground to get the boobs going. So he can just roll in and out just through the back, and the Diva can just be annoying. So yeah, not really the best monkey map, but there's a lot of other options to run a Night Market, and that is kind of the beauty of Li Zhang's Tower, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty much a flavor of the team as Li Zhang. You can just kind of rotate around options what you want to take in. And then if you run into the enemy team who has counters, then there are a lot of opportunities to counter as well. If there's a Pharah running amok, you can run a pretty good Widow, some really nice sightlines on the high grounds, really fast sightlines as well. If you win that first team fight and have the Widow set up on that high ground ledge, oof, it can be very annoying and hard to get out of spawn without losing anyone as they manage to make it to the control point.
Indeed. Well, it looks like we might be going into the map pretty soon. Hoping for some good games from both of these teams, but yes, we will have to wait and see.
That we will. Well, they're saying now first map is either Ilios or Li Zhang, so we could potentially have talked about Li Zhang for all this time for absolutely no. I'm assuming it's going to be Li Zhang, as you have informed me now that Ilios not really one of the favored ones.
Indeed, not necessarily.
We'll have to see. Yep, Li Zhang. There we go.
It is indeed going to be Li Zhang as the first map, so we'll have to wait out what this will give. Gardens, Moxie, one of your favorite maps, as we always say, because of the fire picks, something that you very much enjoy.
Well, I mean, it's always fun watching the Pharah off, because not only can the Pharah... There are two ways that you can go about if both teams have a Pharah. You can either ignore the Pharah and hope that your other DPS manages to get her down and just focus on the bulk of the other team. Or you can just go straight up into this guy for that one-on-one, or sometimes if you have the pharmacy, 2-on-2 battle. But it's going to be Night Market. Now we're going to see if your dream composition is going to be coming true. Personally, I would like to see the Hammond come out. Probably not going to see the Monkey, as we have just previously explained. But it's going to be waiting that 23 seconds to see what exactly both these two teams are going to be throwing at us.
And indeed, we will have to wait out what these teams will be throwing at us as we go on to Night Market. So, I'm expecting indeed Ryan Zardes, personally.
Yeah. It is common on this map. But we'll have to see. It is, what, the semifinals? So actually, we're seeing the Monkey battle!
Are seeing the Monkey for both teams. It is an interesting pick. As soon as you get on point, that Monkey pick becomes a bit more difficult, but apparently both teams want to dive this and not feeling very comfortable with the Hammond.
Well, maybe they want to just take the battle to the courtyard area, and whoever manages to win that grabs the point. Or they could have, well, if you look at this, Frozen Melons is actually going to have a little bit of an advantage in getting to the point first, because nope, they don't have a, they do the out of spawn Lucio speed boost and then swap immediately onto the Mercy. So they're going to get to the point faster. That means that they actually managed to set up. So AVX is going to be a little bit on the back foot. They have to worry about the Pharah trying to book one off the map. She is looking for it.
Well, it's gonna be Kiwi with the opening pick here onto Shackler, so that is your main healer out of the fight. Actually had to check the teams were the wrong way around. That is now fixed. AVX with a first point take, a very convincing first fight.
I mean, they didn't lose anybody.
They indeed did not.
And now Frozen Melons, are they gonna want to stick with this dive coming into this, especially when you've already got the Diva Lucas Millen up on the high ground? And he's going to be joined now by Kiwi, who's just going to get all of the cleave damage as they come through.
Indeed, while Kiwi doing a bit more poke damage. Genji already up to the barrage here, wins the fight versus the enemy Pharah. Spunkin actually gonna get res. We have a Pharah battle going in the backline. Just a bit of a dogfight. Mercy out of the fight. Edan as well.
This is looking very decidedly AVX's map at the moment, Val.
Indeed, and Genji now winning a mid-air fight 3 times in a row.
This is so confusing. He's called Genji, but he's playing the Barrage. Well, Genji has a Barrage, not the Cyborg Ninja, but the Egyptian flying rocket-powered bird at the moment, and he's gonna probably be looking to drop behind them and Barrage, or waiting for them to walk out of the door, chunk that Winston bubble down, and hope that the Diva is gonna get demaxed before dropping in and saying hello.
Indeed. Well, we've got another Pharah battle in midair, which Genji just very easily wins, just taking out the enemy.
It's gonna be a Deadeye invested.
Barrage
And the
invested
at
as
the
well
same time,
to
but it's Kiwi who actually finds the picks with the Primal.
follow up onto Dream is gonna get them out of the fight pretty damn quickly. The percentage point now up to 86%, and Tingle Tangle just late pick, so no real issue here to get a last fight in versus 5 of the enemy.
Yeah, well, AVX used pretty much all of the ultimates in that last engagement, which is normally when you would give an advantage to Frozen Melons, but I don't think that you're going to be able to contest for as long as needed.
Well, they managed to get onto the point. The Barrage gets completely denied.
It was a very ambitious barrage, but really you just had to throw everything that you had in. It's such a shame for Frozen Melons that they weren't able to regroup fast enough, because like I said, AVX invested a barrage, a primal, and a Deadeye into getting only a couple of picks. That's a lot of ultimates to only get a couple of picks, which is when you would say, okay, well, Frozen Melons, they haven't really used an ultimate, but they didn't have any ultimates up at that point because they hadn't been actually finding any value. Spunkin only just manages to get Barrage up in time for that overtime bar, because he was just being absolutely deleted from the sky. He's had enough of the bar. He's going to go into the Hanzo. But Genji is onto the same Shimada, and we're going to have to see if he manages to shut him down just as efficiently as he has been before.
Indeed, well, also the Mei pick is gonna make this quite difficult, while the other side is opting to bunker a bit more.
Yeah, but a bunker with a Zenyatta and no Lucio. So, if AVX win this first fight as they did before on Night Market, Frozen Melons are very much at a disadvantage because they're not going to be able to get past the wall, but Dream finds the pick onto Kiwi, and that opens everything up for Frozen Melon.
Indeed, Q with a very aggressive charge actually gets picked off the Discord Orb, allowing for so much damage to go onto that main tank, but it looks like it will be first point take possibly here by AVX. They have a few more feet onto the point, so indeed they will get it first, and by now Kiwi is back onto the fight. So while Frozen Melons kind of had a bit of an advantage, they didn't really use much of it. They do actually have a disconnect at the moment.
Yeah, Swankin is now leader. We're waiting for the pause.
Indeed.
I mean, this is technically a pause. Kind of. Both teams have stopped completely. Hey, he's back. Well, I think that was the first Nick casting career.
Well, that is indeed a bit of an unlucky.
That is indeed a bit of unlucky, and it meant that there's so much point percentage. AVX managed to get 42% off that, and so Frozen Melons, the advantage that they had at the start of the fight, it's almost entirely gone.
Indeed,
There's a
it
Mei
is.
set up now right at that aggressive choke, so I would advise Frozen Melons to swap off the Zenyatta as soon as the Transcendence is used and go with the Lucio, or take the long rotation and wrap around. There's no way you're going to manage to get through this choke without anyone being walled off. That's
We've
exactly
got
what they're
Genji
doing.
try to be very aggressive, going for a bit of a flank here as Frozen Melons go for a long wraparound.
Well, they have to. Put this Kiwi again out of the fight early. Ming Tank gone.
Going so aggressive and getting punished for it every time.
There's
But
a
now
blizzard
the
now, and
blizzard-
they have nothing to negate it.
Indeed do not, so this will be a quick cleanup for the second point. Again, percentage up to 87%. It's looking rough here for Frozen Melons. Spunkin getting trapped here. Manages to get Darky Phoenix though, but it's just 5% to go.
Are they even going to be able to touch the point? There's just a Mei wall in the way.
They are not, and that will be the first map going to AVX. So that is the opening here on Lijiang Tower.
That it is. I mean, I think Frozen Melons still need to properly warm up. The pause was unfortunate. It did put them at quite a vast disadvantage. But they also didn't really seem to to find any way of really dealing with what AVX were running. Either the Mei, where they stubbornly just keep running the Zenyatta in for that one Transcendence where it eventually just fades out and then they just get blizzarded and deleted.
Indeed. It's looking rather rough for Frozen Melon.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, if you only get one ultimate up in an entire map, then yeah, I think something needs to change, pal.
Well, it will be now the next map that we are waiting for. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Just checking chat whether there's any issues. Doesn't seem like it. It's just a bit of an unlucky. A DC can happen. I would assume usually that the teams would consider this, but seeing as it is the host, seems like it's just alright and a bit of an unlucky. So we will be going into the next map soon. Mox, what would that be?
Well, the teams are saying hybrid, so it will either be King's Row or Numbani.
What would you expect, or what would you want to see?
Actually, they're just gonna go straight on to Escort, apparently.
Alright.
Okay. They're saying Havana or Gibraltar. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like seeing Havana, but we're not gonna see Havana. It's going to be Gibraltar. Which means that we may see Winston coming out. It is kind of his home turf. Not as much as Lunar Colony, but it's his current home turf.
Home away from home.
It's the home away from home. Although I don't think he would consider Horizon his home, considering that was probably where he got experimented on. And yeah, no.
I mean, okay, well, we are also seeing the teams swap around. So that will be something that we will fix as soon as we get into the next game. So don't worry about that. As a disclaimer, by the way, in between, this is a one-man production, one person doing all the button pressing and editing and everything else. So do bear with me, as sometimes there's tiny things that get forgotten. We will fix these things as soon as we can.
That we will. Well, I'm hoping that we see some dive. So between Havana and Gibraltar, you can't really cheese Gibraltar as much as you can Havana. And by cheese, I mean grabbing a bastion, grabbing a bunker, setting up on the high ground, and just mowing everybody down as soon as they're away from the payload. Gibraltar is just a little bit more open at the beginning, but you also have those spaces where teams can just kind of worm their way up the corridors.
Indeed.
So Bastion, not as viable. Which means that we're probably just going to see maybe a Widow. You do have those nice long sight lines. You can just stand either on that high ground at the front in sort of like the middle right above the payload, or just completely far off into the back behind some nice shields. But we'll be waiting to see exactly what it will be.
Indeed, we will.
Personally, I would like to see the Farah coming out, at least for point A. Point A attack Farah can actually be pretty strong, especially if you can manage to just push the defense off that high ground into the waiting arms of your team. You can get some really nice early picks off, especially on the main tanks who just aren't that mobile. But it's going to be the Winstons coming out. We do have the Widow battle bell, and it will also be the battle of the ninjas. We're going to have two Genjis on the field.
It is fairly mirrored comms. The only difference here indeed being the Zen versus the Mercy. I would actually give that slight advantage to the Zen, honestly.
I would, because, I mean, Valk is maybe going to keep one person up during a Genji Blade.
And the
Not
damage boost
Genji Blade.
can be quite useful, but indeed you miss the defensive ult and that Discord orb.
Yeah, you really are that. And also that damage. Zenyatta is essentially a third DPS in this 2-2-2 comp.
Indeed. So, and the biggest difference indeed being the damage boosts one person, while the Discord orb just increases damage taken by that one enemy. So you can really chunk someone down with the Discord orb, where the damage boost just gets a bit of extra poke, I would say.
Yeah, well, we also shouldn't overlook the importance of the res, but at the moment there is a little bit of a widow battle going on behind the sidelines. It's the poke battle going on as well from the two teams, but WBTC finds Idan.
The WBTC winning the Widow battle early on is gonna make it a bit more difficult to keep pushing here, as the Widow also gets a free reign. Shulker being the second to drop, so the Zen indeed not really providing that value that they were probably hoping for. Dream another one. At this point you would say Frozen Melons, you gotta start pulling back and just not keep staggering in, as Idan just gets picked off again.
Again, and also WBTC doesn't even need the damage boost, it's just a hiding behind the back, has so much cover, whereas Idan, he really has to come out onto this bridge platform, which leaves him almost completely open.
Indeed,
Phosphor is gonna have the Valk up, meanwhile Shekler is only 43% to the Transcendence.
That is now a Nano Vincent onto the high ground, but it's gonna be a bomb to try and deal with that. Spunkin actually in the backline getting dealt with by the Ana, and now we've got Winston way far ahead away from his team, not being able to get healed and getting just focused down. That is a primal rage completely negated, and the point still standing still.
Idan has done nothing but walk out of spawn and die at the moment. You really do have to feel for this Widow. They're seeming to be a little bit disjointed, Belle. They're not really diving at the same time. You want to get your Widow to have that first opening pick, and then the Genji, the D.Va, and the Winston all jump in on the team to capitalize on the confusion. But at the moment, it's WBTC who's just ruling the sniper battle, which means that Idan has to play really, really conservatively. It has to just hide around all of these covers.
Oh, the bomb gets Phosphor, who was just dropping down, though they get Shekler out of the fight as well. But another pick is now looking a bit more red in the kill feed, as Frozen Melon is actually starting to pull this back, and Blade gets actually invested here. Natskool being the first to drop to it, and Dream also dropping extremely low. They can still get a fight here on this point. Dream being low already, but Kiwi now being the only one.
Blade got invested, but it was just used only on the Ana, and so Shekler didn't actually have to pop that Transcend, so he can use it now for when the contest comes in, and
now
that's actually gonna run out.
Indeed, just as Kiwi gets the Nano, so that is Zen out of the fight. The Nano on the Monkey doing so much damage here, especially with the damage boost on top of it as well. It looks like indeed AVX will be able to turn this back.
I think Shekler pulled Transcendence just a little bit too early.
Trying to get back to his team.
Trying to get back to his team. You don't want to use Transcendence, especially if you know there's going to be a contest coming. Maybe they thought there wasn't going to be a contest coming. But there was a nanoed Monkey. You never want to use Transcendence to go just for that little bit of speed boost. It's such a valuable ult, and it takes quite a while to pull up.
Indeed it does, though Idan gets Darky Phoenix out of the way. That's a lot of healing gone already. Now Spunkin indeed with the blade gets denied, but WBTC with the shot onto the Ninja. A bomb now to deny a bit more space. Doesn't actually get any kills, but now the counter now onto Dream. Looks like it will be starting to confirm this point pretty soon. But not after AVX has already burned down a lot of time off the clock, with now just 10 seconds to go.
Well, not only that, but they actually forced Frozen Melons to burn almost every single ult. Shekler actually is 93% to that next Transcendence. He's going to have it up. But Genji has that Meteor Strike. He could just use it to escape, or he could try to get a pick onto Natskool. But Ana is so vulnerable against those Doomfist ultimates, can't run out of the way.
And indeed, well, we now have the swaps onto Doomfist for both sides. It's gonna be Lucas Merlin being the first to drop to Doomfist, but WBTC wins the Widow battle, gets a second pick here. Now we've got the Widow doing work with the headshots, another one dropping to WBTC.
Well, at the moment, WBTC is completely uncontested. Aidan is just not finding the shot onto him. So he just gets to decide exactly where he wants to stand, which just gives him pretty much all of the battlefield to find those shots, and find them he does. He's really connecting to those heads at the moment. Valdream is popping Primal, but he's actually antied. So they might be able— no, he actually gets Ana out of the way.
Indeed, and while WBTC might have been winning the Widow battle and getting a few picks, the payload just keeps chugging along casually. And it is gonna be a relatively quick cap here for the second point.
Well, if you're AVX now, you want to just kind of fall back and make sure that you don't get staggered. They're gonna lose the Anno. She does manage to sleep the Winston as she goes down, but now look, Melons can go so aggressively because all of AVX were just on the back foot trying to get out. That's gonna be a meteor strike that finds the Mercy.
Indeed, the Mercy now out of the fight. That is the payload just moving along even further, as you don't have that extra bit of healing that you can get, and the extra bit of damage boost. WBTC now dropping to the Zenyatta, another opening for Frozen Melons to keep pushing in.
Okay, I want Kiwi to pop Primal, and then I want him to swap.
The bomb comes in, doesn't find anything.
Finding so much of this damage, like Aiden is actually now finding shots. You've got Shegler just lobbing damage in with Zan. You've got the Diva Bomb that you're trying to just defend from. You've got a Doomfist in your backline. You can't really try and dive this at the moment. Your team's too disconnected. You can't dive properly. You have to coordinate dives. And actually, the Nano comes onto the Widowmaker.
Might have been a misclick. Actually gets the Spunkin out of the fight here. An EMP finds 2. Will this be enough to turn it back? They do have a few picks here, and they have the spawn advantage. So now a Diva and a Winston just trying to hold on for dear life. Dream still alive in the backline is gonna go indeed for the reset.
Okay, Kiwi is 77% to this Primal, so he may just stick with it, waiting to see, because Primal, you can use it to contest that payload for such a long amount of time. It can make sure that all your team is able to come back into the fight. You've got Genji just being a nuisance at the moment, trying to farm this EMP up as quickly as he can. He has to translocate out, doesn't want to be staying around when there's a Hanzo and a Widowmaker.
60 seconds.
Indeed.
That's 60 seconds though, when all that Frozen Melons have to work with at the moment is the Nano.
Yeah, but on the other side, they don't really have anything.
Well, Kiwi is gonna get Primal up as soon as he jumps in. He's gonna get slapped.
There's not
But
a lot
he
of
actually
family
manages
going on.
to survive. That's a hack that comes onto the Reinhardt, so no shield there, which means that all of AVX can go so aggressively.
He was forced to indeed pop Primal to keep himself alive, but a lot of damage in the backline as Lucas Merlin on the Hammond is going quite aggressive, and now it's looked like they are indeed stabilizing and holding on to this point.
Yeah, well, Kiwi actually manages to juggle Dream all the way into his front line, which means that they can just completely destroy that Reinhardt. It's gonna be the 2 visors coming, so both teams know exactly where they're positioned. WBTC not able to find that early pick.
Okay, now bomb into the backline. Will everyone be able to hide from it? Phosphor will not be, and Genji also out of the fight. That is 2 opening picks. This will probably send the payload to keep on moving WBTC with the pick onto Natskool. But he's not gonna stay alive for much longer. A dragon as well across the point. Lucas Merlin, however, on the Hammond, just going ham.
He really is going absolute hamster at the moment, keeping them all off the point. That's pile driver, which means that they can get the anti onto them, and that's it.
They didn't manage to full cap.
They didn't, and I think in all of that chaos, Kiwi, I know he gets taken down at the end of it, but I actually think that the Winston manages to somehow jump over the distance that EMP covers, and so doesn't get hacked, because when I looked at him in the kill feed, I was like, wait, there's no assist from the Sombra.
Indeed, there is not, so... But it was indeed Lucas Merlin at the end, just getting kill after kill, holding on to this point, making sure that the full push doesn't get realized. And we will then indeed be going into AVX's attack. This is now, at the very least, not going to round 3 or 4. This is now a win or a loss.
This is indeed now a win or a loss. So Frozen Melons are really going to have to pull something out of the bag, I think. It seemed as if they'd cracked the nut on point B when they got that Doomfist. But then AVX just returned, and they seem to also have found the key to shut that Doomfist down, because he stopped coming up in the kill feed as much.
Indeed, he did. There's gonna be AVX going in once more for the dive. Basically, somewhat the same, but possibly opting to stick with this Sombra, which would be an interesting pick and could actually be very beneficial, getting the main tank or the off tank out of the fight by the way of the hack. I think it could be quite a good pick.
Going to stick with the Mercy. I don't think they're very fond of running the Zenyatta, which they could actually find coming back to bite them in the form of a Nano Blade. They're going to have no defensive ultimate to protect against that. When Genji is going to be onto the Doomfist, WBTC must be feeling pretty comfortable about this Widowmaker because he has been winning the sniper battle so far. Aidan did manage to get one onto him, but for the most part it was WBTC who opens it up again for his team that allows the full dive to come in. No fear of the Widowmaker.
It's Shelter. Low has to drop in the backline is actually antied, but everyone...
All of AVX can just clap straight onto Frozen Melons, who just have to pull back and give all of the payload.
Shulker dropping low again is indeed gonna get picked off. Genji actually on the Doomfist here, not on the Sombra. Is still going quite aggressive, is looking for more picks in that school. Dropping extremely low, barely manages to get some healing in. The payload is still moving quite rapidly as they are trying to hold on to this point. 1 meter to go, no one's gonna be able to contest.
Well, that happened because Aidan actually comes out onto the high ground when all of his team are still in the spawn room, which means that the D.Va goes aha and jumps onto that, the Winston then follows. And now it's going to be Aidan just trying to get out alive. He manages to get onto the plane, but they're really trying to hunt this Widow down. Going to take out the Doomfist, but it's very quickly taken out by Kiwi, and the Doomfist is going to be rushed straight back into that.
That's just such a clean second find as well. They just go so aggressive and get all of the picks here. The Doomfist is really doing a lot for AVX here, just harassing them and just not allowing them to get any free space whatsoever.
Well, Aidan is forced to swap onto the McCree, trying to deal with this Doomfist by way of flashbang, but he's not gonna really be able to deal with the monkey that way.
The bomb onto point does find Genji. The Doomfist now out of the fight, and Lucas Merlin also loses their mech. But the fight's still going on onto the point, and there's a lot of healing and damage boosting coming in for Kiwi and Lucas Merlin. Lucas Merlin now actually getting the mech back. We're gonna see a Primal coming in on point, just trying to poop everyone away as it's only 4 meters to go.
Well, it's a lot of blue in the kill feed. Well, actually, they're going to try and contest this with a Nano Blade. They have no defensive ultimate on the side of AVX, so they should pick up a couple, but it's gonna find nothing. It's actually gonna find WBTC's bullet straight through the skull. And WBTC again able to take up this aggressive positioning. Aidan was supposed to go into the McCree to contest the Doomfist, but that means that WBTC just gets to run amok, no fear of the instant headshot kill.
Meteor strike.
And indeed, now the Meteor Strike is still just not allowing Dream to even get back to his team. Now the Doomfist is actually out of the enemy's front and back line. But as you said, WBTC able to get a free sideline to get shots off. It's gonna force Dream to just push in very aggressively, but they do get the Doomfist out of the fight. Now Phosphor being the second one to drop, and it's actually now Frozen Melons pushing back on this.
Well, that's good. They need some form of stabilization to wait for a couple of ultimates to come online. They did have Transcendence. They didn't have to use it in that fight, which they're always happy about. It means that they're going to have it for, say, when Genji, who is now swapped to the Sombra, is going to EMP. Or, if you manage to pressure the Zen, he'll use it before, and then, again, you have no defensive ultimate against it. But it's going to be the same story for Frozen Melons. They've got the Sombra, who's actually closer to the EMP than Genji. And AVX not running any defensive ultimate to counter EMP though. This could be bad news for them.
Indeed. Both teams indeed now running is Sombra. Phosphor being the first to drop in this next fight. So no mercy means that's gonna be a bit more difficult. Though Genji actually farming up this EMP quite successfully.
Yeah, he's 62%, but it's Sponkin who's gonna hit that ultimate first. 89%, 90 still counting.
Bomb now in the backline. Gets Phosphor again.
The Mercy is just being taken out of the fight so quickly that denies the res completely. going a little bit over aggressively, I would say, to Frozen Melons. They may want to pull a little bit back, and pull back they do. Shacklet hasn't actually been pressured, so he hasn't felt the need to transcend it. So we're probably going to see him just try and hide out. He is indeed hiding out of line of sight because they know that Genji is going to have this EMP up. He's waiting for it to come in. Genji hasn't found exactly where he's going to be. So not going to be able to go for the right hand click. He's looking for the right hand attack.
It's going to be an EMP that finds 4, but Spunk is going to give it live WP to see 3 picks there with the Hanzo. The Transcendence gets used, but everyone's already dead. Who are you going to heal?
I mean, that was a little bit of a misclick from Shackler, I would say, because Genji hasn't actually used the EMP. That's disaster for the Zenyatta. He'd been holding on to it so long, waiting for it, tried to outplay it, but now his team is just going to get EMP and there's going to be nothing to stop them.
There's not. Genji's just waiting for it, doesn't even hide for it. Now the EMP comes in, finds both of the tanks. The bomb as well to try and confirm it's forcing Tingle Tangle into a different angle. Aidan gets hacked out of the high noon, and that will be a full push by AVX, taking another map here.
Frozen Melons really looked like they had it figured out in that point. They really did, but then Shackler just puts the Transcendence and Overwatch can. It's a flip of the coin, Val. These fights, it's just a dime is the difference. And such a huge difference it was because they tranced early. They had no defensive ultimate. The Sombra didn't even feel the need to hide out. As you said, there was nothing to save him from that EMP.
Indeed, there is not. One more disclaimer, by the way. We unfortunately did not get that much information about Frozen Melons, or well, any at all. So I unfortunately can only show the layout of AVX between rounds. So this is not a bias, this is just purely we don't have the graphics for the other team. So apologies to Frozen Melons, this is nothing personal.
Yeah, nothing personal, just...
But yes, we've had 2 maps now, AVX looking extremely strong here. I would say that right now, it would probably be a hybrid map, and I would guess it'll most likely be King's Row, as we saw before as well.
I don't know, both these teams seem to favor the Winston, so I would say maybe we're more likely to see Numbani. We haven't really seen the Reinhardts come from either of these 2 teams at the moment.
I mean...
And Numbani is very much a diveable map.
We have seen the Reinhardts come out on Control Tower at least, but so far mostly been diving maps. Still King's Row very much a favorite map for most of the teams, but not impossible to have Numbani. It depends on what both of these teams, well, feel comfortable on. Let's see. I'm gonna go quickly check something here. Let's see.
Well, I would say it's gonna be Frozen Melons who pick the map.
Indeed, it is the losing team that chooses the next map. So we will be waiting.
So it is gonna be Numbani.
It is indeed apparently going to be Numbani.
Ha! I get to say I told you so. Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that both these teams do favor the Winston over the Reinhardt, at least for today, considering that they decided to run with Winston rather than with Ryan. A lot of our words, tongue twisters, on Night Market, which, as you've explained, is not necessarily a very guerrilla-friendly map.
Yes, indeed not. We're seeing another swap of the teams.
Oh, that's fine. That means that my list's realigned now.
AVX doing the attack first. Gonna be looking for the full push for the Melons, hoping to hold on to the point as long as they possibly can.
Yeah, well, I think they're anticipating maybe a little bit of a bunker to run into. It is actually, I would say, easier to get a full push in Numbani and then defend it on that first point, especially if you go with the Bastion bunker with the Batiste. You can really full hold that point on defense.
If the enemy team indeed does not really have the coordination to deal with a Bastion bunker, because it is actually quite possible, contrary to what your competitive games might suggest, to break through a Bastion bunker if everyone dives in at the same time, or even if you go Reinhardt and you just kind of wait underneath the point, forcing the enemy team to come to you, basically.
Yeah, well, that's why we sometimes see that bunker get split in half a little bit. I do like this kind of defensive positioning sometimes, where you see the Bastion set up behind the point, and more mobile DPS, say an Ashe or a Hanzo, just set up to the right of the bunker, to the far right, so that one, you can see if the attackers try to go underneath, and two, so that you know if there's going to be a Sombra trying to get pumped. Because, you know, if the Sombra is stealthed and comes into contact, you do actually detect it for a couple of seconds, which can be more than enough time for her to just be absolutely decimated and sent back to spawn. WBTC is actually going to be on that very same Sombra. And Aidan is going to opt for the Widowmaker. They're going to apparently go with dive on the defense and what appears to be dive on the attack. This is going to be the Battle of the Winston's Part 2, Bell.
Indeed, it is. On attack, it is most likely dive. Like, that is just a very common and good way to attack this point, especially if you're forced to run 2-2-2, which this tournament is. So
they really do seem to like Phosphor on this Mercy. They're not really. We haven't seen much of Yada from AVX.
Indeed, we have not.
That being said, it's gonna be Frozen Melons who are gonna be the worry about this Nanoblade. So AVX, you know, the Mercy can help. You're a little bit more mobile than the Zen. You have the res in case you lose one person in the rotation. The dive comes on instantly, trying to find a pick. A point is already taken, actually. Frozen Melons just can't contest in the confusion of that dive.
Indeed, as Bonka gets faster out of the fight, no Mercy beats no res, but the kills are looking very much in favor of AVX at the moment. A lane hack onto Nat's gold is just going to confirm this point within the first fight.
It wasn't even really the first fight, it was the first half a fight, because there's already 2 ticks taken by the time that Frozen Melons remember to contest. They're all in so much disarray as soon as that dive came down, and they've swapped off the dive. It's going to be the Orisa Hog bunker that they're opting into, with Aidan on the McCree, probably to try and shut WBTC down, because he really did find quite a lot of value on those hacks. But it's Kiwi who's going to go with the Reinhardt. And, I mean, he could just go straight into that front line and get nanoed, and that's pretty much a Shadow going to be bought in one fight, though.
And indeed, well, they are running into a bunker, so that is not really Reinhardt's most favorable matchup, but played well and around corner that's possible. That is an EMP coming in together with a blade that finds two already. It is actually Genji who's going to get taken out by a Bionade, but there's so much kills coming in that it doesn't matter. The payload just moves calmly on through and just gets captured immediately. That is barely one more fight. It's EMP blade and they just keep on going.
Yeah, well, Kiwi is 50% to the Shadow. Darky Phoenix still has that nano, didn't need to use it. Lucas Mullen will be taken out for going a little bit too aggressively. Mercy won't be able to try and res that. No bubble available since it was the Zari who went down.
Indeed, but on the other side, we're just coming up to the first ultimate combo, basically.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Frozen Melons. 5 minutes 53 that they're going to have to try and defend point C from. They need to find some sort of pick that slows AVX down, because they're going to be going so aggressively. They have the Shadow they're going to be looking for.
That is the Shadow looked for and found, as they already get a pick onto Aidan, but a good hook onto Kiwi is gonna actually keep Dream alive for just a bit longer, but not long enough. He's actually gonna get taken out. The res comes in on Kiwi, who is already 30% to his next ultimate.
Frozen Melons, they haven't really been able to find much of anything. Tinkle Tangle is going to be 5% away from the whole hog. If anyone is able to touch the cart, there is a Lucio, but he's probably just going to get EMP'd as soon as he walks out of the door.
It's 0.2 meters. It's now a Nano Blade EMP that just confirms this point. The payload not really having been stopped ever.
That was, I would say, the definition of overkill. Well, Genji just demonstrated that we can see AVX. I mean, they chose to go first. They believed that they could full push, and I'm pretty sure they full pushed.
They've got
5 minutes.
5 minutes and 10 seconds to be 9 seconds to be exact. That is an insane time bank to be able to play with. But AVX, as we've seen before on Gibraltar, but also yesterday on King's Row, their attack is very potent, but their defense is a bit less good. So will Frozen Melons be able to break through the defense?
Well, we'll have to see exactly what AVX did. Oh, Bell's Bastion Batiste bunker. This is gonna be painful for Frozen Melons if they can't find a way to break through this. This has the potential to be a full hold. This really does.
Indeed, it does.
I'm not so. I would hope that Shekla and Naxgul, one of them is gonna swap, because you are just not gonna have enough healing to have that just a Lucio and a Zenyatta. They could just be going for that out of spawn door speed boost, and then swap Naxgul onto say an Ana or a Mercy. But I would hope that one of them will swap. Spunkin is gonna go into the Doom first.
I mean,
Which is either going to be really successful and manage to splatter either Darky Phoenix or Phosphate against the wall, or he's just going to be mown down by WBTC, who we've seen hit the shots on Widow. He's going to be able to hit those shots on Bastion.
Indeed, they will be. Now it's Frozen Melon setting up for their first dive here.
Well, it's actually going to be Spunkin going around the back. They're opting actually. The whole team is trying to get around the back. Is the Zenyatta gonna make it? He is.
They are setting up for the collapse. Aidan here just hiding around the back here on the bridge. They're
going
hear him.
down. There's a very long wraparound. They thought that AVX thought they were gonna be dive from the back, but it's gonna be a full frontal dive actually.
Indeed it is. A good anti-nade coming in. It's one tick lost now, but 2 kills for AVX. So there's not going to be any further point percentage, but it is a long wraparound that burns off a lot of time off the clock. That is a minute and a half already down.
Well, I'm looking back at what happened. I'm thinking, how did Darky Phoenix not die? The Mercy was actually behind half of Frozen Melon's team at one point in time and anti-naded, and still manages to make it through. Still manages to stay alive. Just damage boosting WBTC, who's already at tank configuration. Meanwhile, Frozen Melons, they've got, what, the Nano? And that's probably gonna be it for this push. It's just gonna have to be throw themselves against the shield. Quickly, I would say as well. They cannot afford, the time bank will not let them go for those really long, fancy wraparounds.
Indeed, well, there is a Tracer in the backline trying to go for the wraparound.
Not really working out for them. Spunkin is just kind of
Well, that is an
trying
opening
to
pick.
find the way.
Genji already out of the fight. Lucas Merlin being forced down. Now this is going to be a tank mode. It's gonna get Aidan out of the fight. Will it get one more? It's already discorded. It's gonna drop quite low. Gonna get slapped as well. A second tick for Frozen Melons here.
They have to make sure the Mercy doesn't get the res off on the Bastion, but that's exactly what happened.
But will they be able to get back to point? The point is already almost gotten. They're just trying to stall out as long as they can. That will be
And
indeed
Frozen
the
Melons are
point
breathing
grabbed.
a big sigh of relief right now. That looked really grim for them. But they do manage to turn it around, and we're going to see a couple of swaps coming in from AVX. No more Bastion. It's going to be WBTC, going to be going onto the McCree. Kiwi is going to be off that Ursa. And it's going to be a little bit of a mirror dive.
Indeed it is. Aidan spotted out. He's gonna get dove first. Now we've got the monkeys on a bit of a tickle fight here as the Tesla cannons are used on each other.
Well, it's going to be Aidan who's going to be waiting for this EMP blade, which is Nano blade, which is going to be coming in. No EMP there, no Sombra in play. So it's just going to be a Nano blade. It gets 2 though.
Gonna give up his life for it, however.
Frozen Melon's going very aggressively. They're gonna lose the Genji. And they're gonna lose the Diva mech as well. They might have gone a little bit too aggressively. They'll bitten off a bit more than they can chew because AVX are finding a comeback.
Well, they are indeed getting chewed out now just a bit as we have Kiwi just jumping in the backline. The bomb coming in as well. Finds Natschool, one more main healer out of the fight. A jump onto Aidan, who's gonna get taken out next. And this is another push just denied.
The Diva actually, 2000's IQ play there. Dream is just in the front line trying to burn up that last little bit to get Primal on range, which means that there's no Winston bubble to protect anyone from the Diva self-destruct, so you know that you can just send a nuke straight in and it picks up the Ana. Now you've got a Batiste amplification matrix trying to just keep all the Frozen Melons at bay. And
Well,
Shekla is actually still got this Nano. Not Nano, Transcendence.
Dream
Still
with
not used it.
Dream with the Primal Rage goes in, gets taken out, no real help from his teammates. As AVX is still trying to hold on to this, Tingle Tangle is actually going to get the mech back, but drops extremely low, just feeds ultimate charge just a bit.
Well, what we could see in the next fight is just Checkler popping Transcendence to get all his team to go aggressively because they need the ultimate to come online and quickly. It's 2 minutes, Aiden can get another blade if he gets a good couple of picks. Natsuko will probably be holding on to that Nano, waiting for the Genji blade to come online.
Genji will be the first one to drop here. The Transcendence gets invested here a bit early. This does allow them to go a bit more aggressive, but now it's ran out, so it will be Kiwi going aggressive with the Primal Rage. A bomb in the backline will find Shackler, but it looks like Dream is still doing a lot here for his team. Payload moving ever so slightly. Genji just trying to do a bit of damage, but it looks like it will be Frozen Melons actually capturing this point.
Well, they can snowball this into the next fight as well because Aiden still has this blade, and Natsuko has been holding on to this Nano. Dream, if he manages to jump the front line and get enough cleave, could get the Primal, but you don't want a Winston to Primal at the same time as your Genji's blading because you're just going to throw everyone away from the reach.
Indeed, well, and a Dragon comes in to the back and gets Aidan out of the fight. Actually, Tingle Tangle as well.
Well, now AVX can go aggressively, make sure that Frozen Melons can't get into position to use that Nano Blade because they're just going to get the Ana out of the fight last. That's a stagger pick. Aiden can't blade without the Ana going to Nano him.
Genji going so aggressively.
If you manage to get in to AVX's actual team at this moment, then the Nano Blade should work really well because they have nothing to defend against it. They're going to have Phosphor Shield Bash, but that's going to be about it. They may have the Rally, which they're probably going to use to just try and keep everyone alive through the blade, but it can be cut down so quickly. But Dream is the one who's cut down.
Aidan's going to cut down a lot as he gets 3 early picks here with the Nano Blade. It's going to allow the payload to keep moving a bit further. However, it is Frozen Melons. A Pulse Bomb actually gets thrown away a bit, but Frozen Melons already by default on a lower time bank than AVX's, and they only have 1 minute and 20 seconds to end this push, and so far they needed the Nano Blade to be able to push through it.
Well, I think Spunkin there tried to go for the big brain play and stick Kiwi, who was sleeping on the ground, but someone wakes the Winston up and he manages to just jump out of the way just in time. It is actually going to be Frozen Melons who find all the kills at the moment. Dream finally managing to pop the Primal. Checkler has that Transcendence to defend against the Nano.
Well,
But it's WBTC who has a Deadeye. They have to make sure that Tingle Tangle doesn't use bombs so the defense matrix is up.
Kiwi forced to use Primal Rage to contest here. No one actually on the point at the moment. Kiwi does get Natsuko out of the fight, but Aidan getting a few picks here in a row. WBTC is also getting a few picks of his own, but it doesn't look like it will be enough. Frozen Melons managing to get the full push as well, so we will be going to a round 3.
Yeah, but I think it's 4 minutes difference between the two. Yeah, it is 1 minute to 5 minutes 30. This is going to be very, very difficult. Well, saying it's going to be very difficult for Frozen Melons is, I would say, the understatement of the century. This is going to be extremely difficult for them. They have 1 minute to get as much as AVX have is to do in 5 minutes 30. And if AVX decides to bring a Bastion in a defense, then Frozen Melons, it took them quite a while to actually manage to crack that through.
Indeed. Well, it will be interesting to see how they will attempt to defend this. It looks like there is not going to be much cheese on the defense. Going for a dive with Doomfist Surma, which is an interesting strategy, and I would say a pretty good one, especially seeing as we've seen WBTC and Genji very potent on both of these heroes.
Well, I mean, the idea behind this combination is that you hack someone out, which means that they can't run away from Genji, and then you slam them into a wall.
Indeed.
So say you hack the Tracer who's just flying around and being a little bit of a mosquito. Then she can't blink, which means Genji is just free to shove her against the wall.
Indeed, she is. Well, we will have to wait and see what will happen here.
Shackler early hack onto the Zenyatta. That's going to be WBTC already 12% to the nano. It does EMP. It does build pretty quickly.
Indeed, now.
Hack onto Dream as well. Can't complete the jump. Has to fall away.
Adan trying to jump here, but is actually gonna have to pull back. It is looking a bit scrappy now as Dream pushes in. Is gonna get antied and taken up. But Phosphor also out of the fight. It's looking very scrappy.
Very low. Somehow, nope, does lose the mech in the end. Item taking a little bit of a nap. He's probably going to be sent back to spawn extremely quickly afterwards. That will be him there. Spawnka manages to get the Doomfist, but it's really just Frozen Melons trying to scramble for any sort of pick at the moment. They have no ultimates available to them. AVX, on the other hand, have the Nano and the EMP and the bomb.
Well, that is the EMP plus the bomb, taking Dream out of the fight. Single Tangle out of mech. It's gonna make it extremely difficult to hold on to anything here, and Nano onto the Mini Diva to try and do anything. However, the blade comes out just shortly after Transcendence. They're throwing everything and the kitchen sink into this. But there's still no real picks. As I say that, Darky Phoenix is the first to go down for AVX in this continued fight. But it's not gonna be enough. No points taken, no ticks taken.
I mean, you have to think, if you're Frozen Melons, are you looking back in time at that Nano onto the Baby Diva? And thinking what could have happened if you managed to hold on to it when the Genji comes back in with Blade?
Indeed, but
you have to be asking yourself that at the moment, because that Blade could have been big.
Could have been
you
big.
could have had your Transcendence to let that Genji just run amok and get all of the picks. We've seen that the Genjis really can pop off with this Nano Blade.
Indeed, well, they've got 5.5 minutes to hold on to one tick of point A. I'm sorry, but this is looking extremely grim for Frozen Melons.
It really is. They have to opt for this defense. I'm not surprised that we're seeing this defense. I would say this is the only option at the moment. The Bastion with the Torbjorn. Just the double turret with the Batiste, just to try and keep everyone alive. Nazgul to res in case they do lose, say, the Bastion early to the dive. And AVX, though, they just have all of the time in the world to build their ultimate bank. And then just to go in with absolutely everything.
I mean, 5.5 minutes for point A. I'm pretty sure the starting time isn't even that long.
Nope, it is not. You have longer than the starting time. So yeah, if you're Frozen Melons, not looking good.
You have to cheese it, and you have to hold on to this so convincingly. And they are attempting to cheese it, but will the cheese be enough?
It could work. It could. It's gonna have to you're gonna have to rely on rotations to be spot on not losing anybody to early picks. You're gonna be hoping that, say, Kiwi manages to miss his jump a little bit like you did just then.
You have to immediately
you have to also go for the
contesting.
contest. You have to drop someone down, and it's the Orisa who has to.
Indeed, well, Kiwi is looking to just gather some primal range. Everyone just kind of charging up ults.
Well, Darky Phoenix, 75% to this first Nano. And that was only the first engagement. The bunker is going to actually move to a separate location. Nope, they're all falling back to where it was at the first time. I thought maybe we were going to see them. They're splitting it. There's going to be a Torbjorn on one side and a Bastion on the other. Okay, I think they're worried about everyone getting EMP'd though. WBTC though, only about 60% to that ult.
And indeed, but that EMP is probably going to be the thing to do it here. The turret after the fight is the first thing to drop, but Aidan gets slapped onto the point now, and Nano onto Kiwi is gonna give this monkey so much damage. Dream out of the fight. This is an opening, and this looks like it might be enough. Single Tangle actually gets the bomb up, but it doesn't get any picks. Everyone's dead.
Everybody is dead. That is exactly what all of Frozen Melons are about to be, because that is the bomb taking out the last of their team. It's just a Baby Diva. At this point, you have to give it to AVX. That is map. That is game.
And that is this series. AVX taking a very convincing 3-0, going on to the finals versus Eclipse with a very similar result in their own game. However, Eclipse being the one to win versus AVX before. Will AVX be able to turn it back? Or will Eclipse take the whole tournament? That is going to be the question for the Space Force tournament right here. Congratulations to AVX for taking the victory here. And well done to Frozen Melons for putting up a very solid fight, but that was a pretty damn hard fight to get up there. So it is Frozen Melons then having to play against Default for the 3rd place. And AVX versus Eclipse in the finals next Friday. To see who will be winning this tournament. So to end this out, I will say go follow Space Force TV here on Twitch. Also come follow me, twitch.tv/BellyOW, Moxie as well, twitch.tv/GotMoxie, as it is also saying on screen. Find our Twitters, find our Twitches, find everyone. Go follow everyone, go support everyone. We're all trying to work hard here to make this a very lovely tournament and to make everything look as well as we can. So, everyone, thank you for joining. I think that will be it. So, have a lovely day, and we'll see you next Friday. Have a good one.